is Joy News Prime.
Welcome to Joy News Prime, still the most comprehensive 2 hours of television news in Ghana. My name is Israel Lai. Coming up, President Mahama once again justifies private sector participation in the Electricity Company of Ghana, explaining it is a risk worth taking to fix what he describes as a very inefficient downstream distribution. Government insists the KOMENDA sugar factory recently commissioned in the central region has not been shut down as is being claimed, but concedes it is expected to be shut down later this month. Joy News has been to the factory and will tell you what we witnessed. Parliament eventually approves controversial budget of state oil firm, the Ghana National Petroleum Corporation.
And coming up in business, energy think tank Africa Center for Energy Policy supports ECG workers to recover their outstanding debts from government, but cautions against issuing threats on the PURC.
There'll be sports, entertainment, and Joy News Interactive in this bulletin, which is also available across Europe on London-based AV and television. Please stay tuned. President John Mahama has once again justified private sector participation in the operations of the Electricity Company of Ghana, arguing it is a risk worth taking to fix what he describes as a very inefficient downstream power distribution sector. Workers of the electricity distributor have been in the news lately to voice the objection to the transaction. Their protestations, however, come at a time many customers of ECG are unhappy with the quality of service delivery and what the Public Utilities Regulatory Commission says has been widespread overbilling of customers. Speaking at the opening of the Africa Mobile and ICT Expo in Accra, President Mahama likened the current chatter against the private sector participation of ECG to what pertained in the period leading to the liberalization of the telecoms space some years ago.
And change was not something people wanted to embrace. They said that telecoms was such a vital service that if you deregulated and let the private sector come in, the CIA could plan things and listen to conversations. And I mean, those were some of the chimeras that were, pulled out of the box because we were going to privatize, allow private participation. I can see a similar development. We have a very inefficient downstream distribution system on the electricity and power front. We're trying to do reforms, and those chimeras are being drawn out. Electricity is so important, that it must be monopolized by the state. Why are you allowing private sector in? But we've had this system for years. It's not working. If it's not working, you fix it. And you fix it by taking risks. It's a risk we took when we deregulated telecommunications. I mean, nobody knew it would turn out like this, but look at us many years on. And so if you're not willing to take risks, then the world does not make progress. The world makes progress based on risks. And so we'll have to, prepare our minds for change when it becomes necessary.
In a related development, the Human Rights Court has adjourned a case in which an opposition party, the Convention People's Party, is challenging government's intended privatization of state-owned power distribution company of Ghana. The court has set June 9 and 10 to continue hearing the case filed by 5 CPP members, including a former presidential aspirant, Professor Ajiman Bedu Akosa. Raymond Akwa has more.
It will be recalled that Professor Ajiman Bedu Akosa and 4 other members of the CPP filed a suit last November at an Accra High Court asking the court to, quote, cease forthwith from undertaking or continuing any process of any kind whatsoever to privatize the ECG, end quote. Professor Akosa told the court that in his view, there was no difference between concession and privatization and that the choice of the word, quote, concession was deceitful, aimed at deceiving the public from the ultimate goal, which is privatization. The Attorney General's counsel, Grace Opon, sought to suggest to Professor Akosa that there was a difference between the two. She went on to say that the move being undertaken won't affect the ownership of the ECG's assets, but in his response, Professor Akosa explained that the assets will be used to generate revenue and that the intention is to share ECG revenue with 70% going to the private partner, whilst government retains 30%. Councillor Pong then challenged the witness's source of information about the revenue sharing structure. Professor Akosa insisted that was the information in the public domain. Hearing has been adjourned to June 9 and 10.
In another development, the Deputy Power Minister John Jinapor has been briefing Parliament on issues concerning the prepaid electricity meters. According to him, the introduction of the meters was to enable ECG to provide quality service, allowing customers to manage the use of electricity and also to avoid accumulation of bills.
Government strictly does not import prepayment meters. Normally, would import post-payment meters as part of the SHARE projects that this House has approved under the 10 key projects. And so, strictly speaking, we do not import prepayment meters. But we thought that we should give you additional information about meters that ECG and NEDCO is procured. And even with that, Mr. Speaker, with your permission once again, they do not import the meters directly. We have 5 local manufacturing companies, and so they procure from them from 2012. That is what we have been doing. So having said this, Mr. Speaker, with your permission, I'll proceed to conclude by saying that the introduction of prepaid energy meters was a means of enabling the utilities, namely ECG and NEDCO, to collect revenues upfront in order to finance their operations and improve on their effort to provide quality services to customers. This was also intended to empower customers to manage the use of electricity by avoiding waste and also prevent the accumulation of unpaid bills. Following the government's approval, a larger project was scheduled to replace all credit meters with prepaid meters for all ministries, municipal and district assemblies in their operational area.
The Ghana National Petroleum Authority has until, or rather the Ghana National Petroleum Corporation has until the 17th of this month to provide Parliament with details covering its decision to construct a new head office at a cost of 115 million cedis. The corporation, among others, is also directed to provide further particulars on its $100 million guarantee for private power company, Power, on behalf of the Electricity Company of Ghana. Second Deputy Speaker of Parliament Joe Gate gave the directive after the House approved the controversial budget for the corporation estimated at over $2 billion. The Mines and Energy Committee has since last week lobbied the House to approve the budget, but inadequate information on key items forced the House to abandon the process. Majority Leader in Parliament Alban Bagbin wants the GNPC to comply with the directive.
Credible information that the Minister of Finance will be coming back to this House with a supplementary budget. And the GNPC should take the opportunity and make sure that it's captured in this supplementary budget. I'm informed that there is some financial element that was not approved by the House, which is covered in this whole report. And so I think that they will have to rectify that by submitting that to the supplementary budget for scrutiny and approval, if need be, by this House. Mr. Speaker, I have also been told by the leadership of both Houses that this is a matter they take seriously. And I think that GNPC, to repeat some of my colleagues, for once, should listen to good counsel from Parliament and do the right thing.
Pushed by the minority to have the motion stepped aside was unsuccessful, allowing the second Deputy Speaker to put the question on condition the GNPC will comply with the directive. And staying with Parliament, the people... I will bring you that story later, but we're still staying with Parliament, as I indicated earlier, and immediately I can have the story up on my prompter. We'll get get on with that. Government says it is taking steps to address the occurrence of accidents on the VOLTA Lake. Some 21 people died on the lake last month whilst traveling from Grubi in the Karachi district of the VOLTA region to Yeji in the Rahafo region. It is just one of several accidents there in recent times. Member of Parliament for Pru East wants issues of outmoded legislation, disregard for safety and security measures dealt with.
Mr. Speaker, the reality on the VOLTA Lake is that private commercial boat engine-mounted wooden boats are dominant in carrying goods and persons, and yet this anachronistic legal provision of Act 46 is often invoked by VRA to frustrate other potential large investors wanting to invest in transportation infrastructure on the lake. I humbly call for the amendment of the relevant sections of the law. Mr. Speaker, we need to properly map out navigational rules on the lake to take steps to rate the mapped areas of trees and tree stumps to forestall the recurrence of such calamities.
Contributors to the statement want government to act swiftly to make traveling on the lake less dreadful. Transport Minister Fifi Kwete says government is working to deal with the concerns.
I've taken note of some of the other concerns. For example, they're talking about the clearing of the waterways. And this is an area we want to work assiduously on to ensure that a lot of those waterways are clear, so that we will not have any accident that are coming as a result of not a very clear demarcation of these waterways. I also want to indicate that VOLTA Lake Transport Company, despite the challenges that the company faces, is one company that clearly holds some very bright prospects. So I do not particularly believe that we need to necessarily change the company as a test. We believe that there are challenges that we can together help to resolve in order to be able to allow the company to be able to work even much better than they are doing at the moment.
You're watching Joy News Prime. We're taking a break, but still to come in the bulletin. Government insists the KOMENDA sugar factory, recently commissioned by President Mahama in the Central Region, has not been shut down as is being claimed, but concedes it is expected to be shut down later this month. Joy News has been to the factory and we'll tell you what we witnessed. We'll be back in a bit. The management of the KOMENDA sugar factory has rejected reports that the facility was shut down 2 days after it was commissioned by President John Mahama. In a press statement signed by Director of Communication, signed by the Trade Ministry, the management indicated the plant by the end of June, but it will resume full operations by November when harvesting of the sugarcane begins. And I will bring you details of that news briefing, press release in a bit. But Richard Kojunyako of Joy News spent an entire day at the KOMENDA sugar factory in the KOMENDA town and reports the factory is not shutting down. He spoke to the site engineer.
We heard that this factory is going to be shut down. True?
That is not true.
How come it's not true?
You cannot start a factory and at the same time shut it down. It's not possible.
So do we disregard all the things, even what the regional minister said that the factory is going to be shut down?
Well, for what I know, the factory has started and it continues to run unabated. We have just started, and all the processes we are putting in place to make sure that the factory continues to stay in operation. Now we are just fine-tuning all our machines to make sure that when the factory comes to full operation, there's no hitches or there's nothing like any shutdown. So we are doing a test run now. You can hear the boiler is sounding. We are doing all our test runs to make sure everything is okay, so that when we start, there's no problem. So there's nothing like shutdown. The factory is not going to shut down.
How long does it take for us to get sugar when we start the process? Because the president came here on Monday and up to date we've not seen the first sugar from this factory. Why?
Yeah, all is set for the sugar to come. The only issue is that we are having a test run of the machine And along the line, if the system is not working properly, we have to check the problem and solve it. Actually, the sugarcane will take about 72 hours from the cane handling session before it gets to the final destination, that is the sugar go down. So the process is 72 hours, but along the line in our process, we have to make sure all the machines are working. Now currently, we are trying to fine tune our turbines. They are working now, but the temperature, we have to at least work on it to be stabilized so that when we start full operation, it will be maintained and there wouldn't be any problem or there wouldn't be any shutdown as people are anticipating to happen.
When are we likely to get our first sugar, to see the first sugar here?
Well, hopefully by tomorrow or tomorrow next it will be ready, because now all the process in the fine-tuning is gradually coming to an end. So let's hope by in 2 days' time or by the close of the week we are going to have the sugar.
Now, he added that the factory hopes to get its first sugar this week, though it will soon carry out maintenance works on the machines.
Are you supposed to do the maintenance? Because you know there's a maintenance plan. Based on what the minister was saying. That
well, even with the old factory, it started, and then for about 6 months, it never ran. They had to, they took time around about 6 months before the machine started running. And it ran for 6 months continuously before they break for maintenance, because some bolts and nuts, as I said earlier, and maybe some gasket to be leaking and so, and this and that. So we have to go for routine maintenance in an interval of 6 months. So that one. So I'm hoping when we start operation in 6 months, we are going to break for small maintenance work after we continue.
because we know this factory is not supposed to be working now. It should have been shut down for maintenance because that has been the routine, the standard. We hear the machine is on, whether it's a...
What I will tell you is that the factory has just been started. When the factory starts, you have to test run it and then make sure that all the stages in the sugar production, they are properly working. Now, if they are properly working, you start production, you run for some time before you go for a maintenance. So now we have just, when the president came, we just started the test run. We are trying to fine-tune our systems to make sure that the factory continues to be in existence, it continues to serve the purpose to which it was brought. And for that matter, we have to make sure everything is working properly. We have engineers there who are checking everything is done. So if anybody is saying the factory is going to be shut down, then I would not be able to tell. Maybe perhaps the person knows best the reason why he's saying it. But for what I know on the ground here, I know the factory has started, it's on stream, and it will continue to work until the period of maintenance is due.
Now, the site engineer also assured that they have enough raw materials to run the factory.
Available.
Well, when you say available, where can we
there
find
are so many outgrowers who are engaged in sugarcane farming because of Akwateshi and the old factory. Some of them have their farm up to this time. So they are available. People were not patronizing because there was no demand for it in abundance. But now with the factory, they are there in the bushes. So we have identified them and we have assigned trucks to the bushes and they are bringing them gradually. So we are hoping to make use of it until our main farm is completed, and then we can start operations in October. So for now, we are relying on outgrowers.
I see. So the farms of the factory for which the farm targeting is not ready yet. But
it's ready. We have started. It's there. You can go and have a look at it.
Normally, how long does it take for it to mature?
Oh, from it ranges 7 months, 8 months. You can have it ready, depending on the species.
Right, so we have been, Johnny has indeed been to the factory, and the factory, as you've heard the various officials there telling us, or the site engineer telling us, the factory is operating, but it hasn't helped the confusion that has been in the media in recent times. And here is a statement that's just coming from the Ministry of Trade and Industry, signed by Nana Kwesi Sapong. He's the Acting Director of Communication and Public Affairs. And I'll bring you portions of this statement. It says, update on Komenda Sugar Factory. The Komenda Sugar Factory was commissioned by His Excellency President John Mahama on Monday, May 30, 2016. Following its commissioning, there has been a considerable amount of media commentary and speculation about the various aspects of the factory's operations, which is accurate. This statement seeks to provide the necessary facts. The factory was with a $35 million concessional loan from the Indian government through the Export-Import Bank of India. Now, let me move to another portion of the statement which I think is relevant. It has to do with the price at which the company is buying the sugarcane from the farmers. It says the initial arrangement to buy the sugarcane from farmers at 60 cedis per ton was later improved to 80 between 80 and 90 cedis as local distillers also increased their purchase price of sugarcane to the farmers. The price issue invariably delayed or held up the supply of the sugarcane to the factory. Negotiations were held with the farmers and an amount of 90 cedis per ton was agreed at the farm gate. Following this new arrangement, the farmers have started selling their sugarcane to the factory. So that is all well and good. But then there's another portion of the statement which says that the factory is now in a piloting and testing stage where calibrations of the machines and equipment is taking place. The factory is expected to be shut down sometime in late June, which is, and will resume full production in October, November, when the major harvesting period for sugarcane of October to March begins. Essentially, what this portion of the statement is saying is that probably the site engineer is not really on top of events, and this is coming from the Ministry of Trade and Industry. This statement is signed by Nana Kwesi Sapong, who's the Acting Director of Communication and Public Affairs. Now, this statement is going to be available at myjoyonline.com for those who would want to read the full statement. But clearly, it doesn't help with the confusion because initially there were reports that the factory had been shut down. The Ministry of Trade, the Central Regional Minister, had come out to say that the factory was going to be shut down in 6 months. This statement coming from the Ministry of Trade and Industry says that indeed the factory hasn't been shut down, all right, but it will be shut down later on this month. Moving on to other stories, the Ghana Police Service has arrested 32 suspects who engaged in the printing and issuance of fake roadworthy certificates and stickers at the Accra and Tema offices of the Driver and Vehicle Licensing Authority. Favor Nunu has more.
Follows illegal operations and issuance of fake roadworthy certificates and stickers to unsuspecting motorists who visit the Accra and Tema DVLA offices to secure roadworthiness certificates. The police say the fake documents have striking resemblance with the original DVLA roadworthy certificates, making it difficult to tell the difference.
As per the preliminary investigations that we have conducted, you see that the stickers that they are producing, they are printing and selling to unsuspecting drivers are very true to type, true to the ones that the DVLA are selling. They seem to have laid hands on the genuine software of the DVLA sticker, and so they are reproducing. So when they are stuck to their vehicles, it will take a very expert eyes to detect the fictitious nature of the ones that they are using.
According to the police, the suspects are currently being screened and key culprits will be processed for court.
These certificate dealers were operating from containers within the vicinity of the DVLA offices. And so the operation was mounted and about 32 people were picked up. Presently, those people are undergoing some screening and then some screening so that the suspect and the true suspect could be processed for court. We are going to deal with the perpetrators. We are looking for those behind it. If there is somebody within the DVLA who has a hand in it, who is aiding so that he can also get some consideration out of it, we shall get at the person.
The public, especially motorists, are advised to go only to DVLA private test garages for the testing of their vehicles and subsequent certification.
We're taking a break, but we have more stories coming up thereafter. Don't go away. Right, it's time for business. I hand you over to Emmanuel Abaji-Yafi. I'd just like you to tell you about the statement I was reading earlier from the Trade and Industry Ministry about the KOMENDA sugar factory shutdown. I indicated that the statement was going to be available on myjoyonline.com. It is already there, apparently, so you can go there and get to read the story, the full statement as put out by the Trade and Industry Ministry. Now, Emmanuel, good evening to you.
Good evening, Israel.
So there's all this back and forth about the story, and I mean, the story keeps on changing, and I'm hoping that we can get some clarity to it very, very soon. Because initially, it emerged that the factory had been shut down 2 days after the president commissioned it, and then later on, we got the Central Regional Minister coming in to say that no, the factory had not been, the factory indeed hadn't been shut down, but it was going to be shut down in 6 months' time.
Wow.
And then we also get word, we got to the factory, and we found out that the factory was working indeed, and the site engineer is telling us that there's no way the factory is going to be shut down. And yet, we have a ministry.
So, be telling somebody.
Well, at this point, I think we would want to go with the Ministry of Trade and Industry statement, which is just coming out saying that the factory will be shut down in June.
But not now. It's not closed.
Not now, but it will be shut down in June.
Anytime from today.
Well, later on.
So what difference then does it make then? I mean, if it's going to be shut down in June, and you're telling us that it's shut down, it's not the same.
I don't know. All we want is
a shutdown.
All we want is a shutdown. All we want is
not anytime soon, is doing.
Well, they say in 2 days. So let's hope for the best, right?
At least to cut down on our $200 million annual import bill for sugar.
On sugar, yeah. All right. What's coming up in business?
Well, in business, ASEP is lending support to workers of ECG. ASEP is telling them that they must go all out to recover any outstanding debts, especially from government, because it doesn't make sense if government tells ECG to go for its money from the public, yet the government itself owes so much. You know, it's quite interesting. But the catchword is that, hey, don't issue threats.
But you heard what the president had to say about the downstream power distribution sector. I mean, I think it was a bit harsh. They said very inefficient. That's right. Okay, you take it over.
All right, so thank you very much. Now, the Executive Director of the Africa Center for Energy Policy, Dr. Mohammed Amin Adam, says he supports ECG workers going all out to recover their outstanding debts from government. He, however, cautioned against the issue of threats on the PURC. Speaking on the marketplace, the ASEP boss said management cannot accuse the public for non-payment of bills, whilst government itself is heavily indebted to the power distribution company.
Would like to put on record that the issues raised by the ECG workers are very genuine issues. I agree with them on almost all the issues, except the route that they are using to address their issues. The threat to PURC is unacceptable. They cannot give PURC an ultimatum. They cannot give a directive to its regulator. If we allow such threats to be, issued by organizations that are supposed to be regulated by our institutions, then our institutions will get weaker and weaker. They will never be able to execute their mandate. So I disagree with them. They have no right to give that directive. It is within the mandate of PURC, as established in the law that established the PURC, to regulate the utilities. I think that when we have institutions that have a mandate to perform, they should be able to execute their mandate without fear or favor. I do not see any reason why ECG will not disconnect a government, department for non-payment of its bills, and yet the same ECG will disconnect a private consumer for non-payment of bills. Whatever pressure they can put on government for government to pay its debts, they should do it, and we will support them. ASEP has supported the the call for government to pay is dead, because that is one of the reasons why ECG is being run down. So there is no doubt that we have management problems with ECG, but the financial problem, I believe, can help to solve most of these problems, especially those that relate to procurement, those that relate to their liquidity, and those that relate to improving the conditions of so they can be able to deliver their services better.
And the Bank of Ghana is considering freezing the issuance of licenses for any institution that wants to operate as commercial bank. The move is part of measures the regulator is looking to check the influx of banks in the country. Now, but how would this affect several applications currently before the Bank of Ghana for approval?
Joy Business understands that the Bank of Ghana is currently working to engage several stakeholders on this proposal. Sources say the regulator wants the decision to be based on a broad consultation with all those who matter in the financial sector. The central bank is also looking at the option of also increasing the minimum capital for existing and new banks. Currently, existing banks require about 60 million Ghana cedis to operate, whilst new entrants may have to pay 100 million Ghana cedis. The Bank of Ghana believes that increasing the minimum capital could also help check the number of banks in operation. Joy Business has learned that the that despite the increasing number of banks in the country, there are still certain critical sectors that have not been given the necessary attention. The Bank of Ghana is also worried that it always has to give waivers to some banks to allow them finance certain critical projects because of the single obligo rules. It, however, believes that increasing the capital again could help check this. Some top directors at the Bank of Ghana that Joy Business have spoken to are also of the view that the capital increase should be based on risk and the exposure of a particular bank, so that there will still be some small financial institutions operating in the country with just focusing on some small areas. Some analysts are of the view that if the Bank of Ghana goes ahead with this plan of raising the minimum capital again to about 300 million Ghana cedis, that could result in a substantial reduction in about 30 commercial banks currently operating in the country. However, there are some more of the view that looking at the performance of some new entrants like Royal Bank in terms of profits, this shows that there is room for some of these banks to make some good returns operation. But a source close to the Bank of Ghana has told Joy Business that even if the plan is implemented today, it will not affect applications currently before the regulator.
Now, the Chief Executive Officer of the Venture Capital Trust Fund, Usman Suleiman, is blaming the National Investment Bank, the GCB, SIC, and Agric Development Bank for the poor performance of their investments, a condition he says is negatively affecting the ability of the fund to support more SMEs in the country. He revealed investments worth over $12 million owned by these partners have been neglected for 9 years. In an interaction with Joy Business, Usman Suleiman said all attempts at getting these parties to meet on the wasting investment have proven futile.
Talking about the operational challenges of the funds, like I mentioned that we have 5 funds. We have the Activity Venture Capital Finance Company, and that one we went into partnership with Ghana Commercial Bank, Venture Capital, and SIC. So, no, ADB, committed capital, fund size of about $10 million. Venture owned 40% of that. We made a commitment of 40%. Ghana Commercial Bank also made a commitment of 40%, ADB 20%. Now, at this time of signing, we've all paid up 50% of our committed capital. So that means that our venture capital had invested $2 million. The Ghana Commercial Bank made an investment of $2 million, and ADB also did $1 million. So we started with $5 million. Historically, I don't know what happened from the past 3 years. The whole shareholders have not been so much interested. And that is the same case with, Bedrock, where we did that investment with NIB, 40%, venture 40%, and SIC 20%. So we did the same thing, the commitment of 50% at the time of signing, we signed in, and that means we made $2 million NIB $2 million, and SIC also did $1 million US. So at the moment, these two funds do not even have fund managers.
To the stock market, and John is standing by to tell us more. Good evening, John.
Good evening, Emmanuel.
Has the oil overtaken something like gold or something?
Oil is actually doing very well. Now, do you know it's actually hit the $51 mark
already?
Exactly. Oil is now, trading over $51 per barrel. That's exactly the information actually coming when we are picking before I even got to see it here. And also the demand pressure following oil also indicates that the tendency or the likelihood that oil can actually rise. Even by Friday, we may see 53 is very high. Okay. But before that, let's do the numbers from Ghana, where the Ghana Stock Exchange, I say marginally, so the decline as compared to the Monday beginning opening numbers. Monday opening with 64,233 as against 55,140. So we just saw some marginal decline in terms of volumes traded on the Ghana Stock Exchange, as total value recorded about 27,185, quite marginal, that's against 12,000. So that's exactly how this. The difference is just about the value of the equity, the movement basically. If a higher cap equity actually is involved, then you see the values being higher than the volumes, and the vice versa. That's exactly how it works. So the market capitalization now, as you can tell, dropped from 54 billion. Now it's actually around 53 billion 998. So gradually we are seeing the market losing value over that long period of time. There's no end in sight. That's exactly what it is. A lot of the African markets are actually recovering from those downside, but the Ghana Stock Exchange finding it very difficult to do that particular exercise. Now, almost about six equities moved the market today, but we are reporting on only 4, but these are the significant ones, where EcoBank Ghana returned 3 pesos to their shareholders, as Aluex also returned 1 Ghana, and all of these are trading or be opening tomorrow. 6 Ghana, 33, and then 10 pesos respectively. That's EcoBank Ghana and Aluex. As ETI lost 1 peso, HFC lost 1 peso. So ETI will be trading tomorrow at 18 pesos per share, whilst HFC Bank would also be trading tomorrow at 83 pesos per share. That's exactly how the market saw a lot of activity today, but in terms of liquidity, affect the market so much. So that's how you see the volume not really doing well. Now let's go to the international market to look at how crude oil is actually doing, and then gold and cocoa. As I did indicate earlier, crude is doing $51.48 per barrel after gaining 83 cents today, as it's still trading. You know, the market is almost about 4 or 5 hours to go. So exactly so we're expecting to see a lot more capacity actually being built there from the crude oil grounds, as we have a lot of demand being built up. Now gold, for about 3-4 days now, has been losing. Today it lost almost about $1.08 and currently trading around $1,243.88 per ounce. As cocoa is trading, after gaining, it's trading around 3,082 after gaining $29 exactly. So that's how it is. Cocoa has also been gaining. Quite good news for Ghana though. But then now let's look at how the currency, the Ghana cedi, is actually doing against the major 5 trading currencies here in Ghana. With the US dollar, the cedi lost some value against it, but gained against the British pound. The cedi lost some marginal value against the euro, against the Chinese one, but obviously CFA franc. So for tomorrow, if you need $1, all you need is about 3 Ghana cedi 85. For 1 British pound, 5 Ghana cedi 57, and then for 4 Ghana cedis 37 will get you €1. For a Chinese yuan, it's about 58, and of course 150 CFA franc will get you 1 Ghana. So that's how the market is. But these are the interbank market rates. Forex bureau rates are totally different, but they are not as much different. But we found some about 30-35 percentage point differences in there. So that's exactly how the market is. Emmanuel.
All right, thank you very much. That's a very concise presentation of the markets. And for viewers who would like some more analysis on the stock market, make a date on the marketplace tomorrow at 1 for details of the market in Ghana and elsewhere in Africa and the world. And that wraps up the business segment for tonight. My name is Emmanuel Apwaji Riafi. More news coming up. Don't go away.
The people of Alavanyo and the VOLTA region are threatening to forcefully reclaim land they gave to a religious non-governmental organization operating in the area they accuse of reneging on promises made to them. According to them, more than 25 years after the Le Foyer de Charité took over their land to operate a retreat center, it is yet to deliver on the development projects it promised, but continues to deprive them of income they could have earned from tourist attractions, including a waterfall currently part of the retreat. Latif Idris has been to the community and has more in this report.
Alavanyo, a town in the Hohoi municipality, is noted for sporadic clashes with its neighbor, Nkonya. Natives of both towns have been described by some as a bunch of flippant individuals fighting over barren lands, but that is not true, as I've found. The Chachadu waterfall, for instance, according to residents, used to bring in quite a bit of revenue from tourists until it was taken over by the Le Foyer de Charité, a religious group which claims affiliation to the Roman Catholic Church.
This waterfall used to be one of the booming tourist sites in the VOLTA region until about 2 decades ago, when a section of the Roman Catholic Church, that is Voyer de Charité, took over this portion of the community, promising the people of Alavanyo massive development. But after 2 decades of, taking over this property, the people are yet to see a single promise fulfilled by this section of the Roman Catholic Church, and they are furious about the development.
The man who they've put over there as a head of the place, the man don't want nothing to go on the place again, especially the waterfalls. Is the only force that we have in the area, and that force, the community have been benefiting something from the force anytime there was an occasion.
20 years now, they did nothing about their promises. So the youth of the community want to enter their land because they are forefathers' land. So they wanted to enter the land and use the land as normal.
Attempts to get response from Le Foyer de Charité proved unsuccessful, as the only priest camped at the prayer house with the 14 Virgin Sisters told me on phone he was on a mission outside the country. The Virgin Sisters would also not speak. The residents of the area have meanwhile threatened to stage a demonstration to evict the priest and the sisters so that at least they could once again begin to attract tourists to the Chachadu waterfall.
So the people of Alavanyo have spoken. They are not happy about the current situation as far as the Chachadu waterfall is concerned, and they can't wait to see it bounce back as one of the major tourist sites in the VOLTA region. Latif Idris, Joy News, Alavanyo in the VOLTA region. But before I go to cool off in the Chachadu waterfall. I must say it feels really good. Maybe next time you visit the VOLTA region, you would want to come to Alavanyo just to have a feel of the Chachadu waterfalls. Finally, this is Latif Idris reporting for Joy News.
Right, so fortunately, the microphone came back intact. It didn't get round, and Latif also came back to file this report. Adam Chere Methodist Basic is the best performing school in the Goma West District of the Central Region. Yet the conditions under which the pupils study are awful. For the past 4 years, the structures of the school have been deteriorating, and it seems authorities have turned a blind eye to it. My Joy Online's Austin Brack the area and has filed the following report.
This is the Adam Chere Methodist Basic School. The pupils have no choice but to sit on the bare floor to take lessons because furniture is a luxury. Where their desks, they are woefully inadequate for a class. The nursery staff common room uses a dirty aluminium makeshift structure. And as if this is not enough, the teachers for the primary session have to sit under a tree because there's no staff common room for them. Literally, their office is also under a tree. Several complaints from residents have also fallen on deaf ears. Nana Esichua is the queen mother of the area.
Yes, school no. Be daycare one. Ano share community ni akasa. Yesi them daycare no.
It used to be a workshop. Then we turned it into a school. The conditions are very bad, I know. We've sent lots of complaints, but nothing has been done. It really saddens me that after every effort, nothing has still been done.
But District Education Director Peter Brighton-Malqua refused to speak to Joy News as he accused the news team of spreading false information about the school.
It is this man, on my wrong information. A friend
Okay, so you, when we get to Accra, you hear from us. Am I taking this decision here?
Up next, we bring you international news. Time now for a recap of our top stories on Joy News Prime. President Mahama has once again justified the private sector participation in the electricity company of Ghana, explaining it is a risk worth taking to fix what he describes as a very inefficient downstream power distribution sector. Government insists the KOMENDA sugar factory recently commissioned in the central region has not been shut down as is being claimed, but concedes it is expected to be shut down later this month. Parliament eventually approved controversial budgets of the Ghana National Petroleum Corporation. An energy think tank, Africa Center for Energy Policy, supports ECG workers to recover their outstanding debts from government, but cautions against issuing threats on the PRC. Now, in other news, the Supreme Court has been asked to review its decision to bar the High Court from hearing a suit challenging Dr. Zaneto Rawlings' eligibility to contest the NDC's parliamentary primaries at the Klote-Kole constituency here in Accra. The incumbent MP for the area, who lost to Dr. Zaneto Rawlings in the November primaries, says the Supreme Court's decision on May 19 did not consider the governing party's constitution. Joy News' Raymond Aqua was in court and filed this report.
The court on May 19, 2016 stopped the High Court from hearing a suit challenging Dr. Zaneto Rawlings' eligibility to contest the NDC parliamentary primaries at the Klote-Kole constituency, whilst Niama Ashite expressed dissatisfaction with the ruling. Dr. Zaneto Rawlings hailed the decision. Her lawyer said the High Court lacked jurisdiction to hear the case because it requires constitutional interpretation. She maintained that the High Court usurped the powers of the Supreme Court when its trial judge, Justice Kweku Akabuafo, interpreted Article 94(1)A of the Constitution. The incumbent Klote-Kole MP, Niama Ashite, who went to court in January 2016 after losing the November 2015 primaries, insists that Dr. Zaneto Rawlings was not a registered voter before the elections and therefore did not qualify to contest the polls. After two High Court rulings in favor of Niama Ashite, Dr. Zaneto Rawlings escalated the matter to the Supreme Court and won a decisive preliminary ruling. Her lawyers were, however, asked to file a response to the request for a review by June 10, 2016. The Chief Justice will be expected to reconstitute the panel to hear the review application when the court sits on June 15, 2016.
the schools in the West Gonja district of the northern region. Classrooms that are supposed to accommodate 40 pupils are now taking over 100. Pupils sit in 3s instead of 2s on a dual desk. Parents who want to avoid the congestion at some of the schools have to take their children 7 kilometers away from their communities in search of quality education. Journey's correspondent Rafiq Salam traveled to the district and reports that the assembly is working towards decongesting the schools.
One major challenge schools in the West Gonja district of the northern region are grappling with had to do with congestion. The required standard by the Ghana Education Service is pegged at 40 pupils per classroom. However, the numbers here in the district in some cases have more than doubled or tripled. Here at Larabanga English and Arabic Junior High School, all 3 classrooms, when lumped together, had a population of 271, an average of 90 pupils in a class. Instead of 2 pupils sitting on one dual desk, the number had been increased to 3. Some of the pupils are forced to sit on the edge of the dual decks with one side of their buttocks, leaving the other hanging. As a result of the awkward sitting arrangement, the pupils complained they have waist pains. Teachers at the school find it difficult to control the pupils as there is little space to work on. Hanifa Ibrahim is the girls' prefect of the school.
There are many. At times, going around to check us is difficult for them. They can't just go around and see everybody the way he or she is working. So they find it difficult. Because we are about 80 students in the class, and the desks are not enough for us. When we sit, we find it difficult when writing. So it makes our work dirty. Our books become very dirty. When we get a new classroom, they can divide us into 2 so that some will go to the other room and some will remain here, and which will help us. And
the congestion at the school has also forced some parents to take their wards to Moli, located 7 kilometers away from their place of residence, meaning the youngsters walk 70 kilometers in order to access quality education every week. Concerned about the plight of pupils in these schools, the West Gonja District Assembly, led by its Chief Executive Ali Bakari Kasim, has awarded contracts for the construction of 3-unit classroom blocks at Larabanga and Abinga Kura to ease the congestion.
His Excellency the President of the Republic of Ghana has mandated that education should be accessible to every child in the country. So we deem it necessary as an assembly to make sure that children should not be overcrowded in their classroom. So assembly has gone through the District Assembly Common Fund to allocate some funds for the construction of this block for the people of Larabanga to make sure that children have teaching and learning smoothly in the district.
The Assembly has also awarded contracts for the renovation of the Javo Primary and the 2-story office of the District Office of the Ghana Education Service.
And I want to caution first the Assemblyman. You have to assist the contractor to make sure that the job is done either before or within and not outside the stipulated time. We are not going to encourage anything outside the time that the project is supposed to be completed. And this means that you need to guide your people not to help in stealing the materials of the contractor. You need to let your people support the contractor to make sure that the job is done, and after it is done, it is fully going to be handed over to the community and children can benefit in this block.
The pupils from the beneficial schools couldn't hold their joy as they jumped into the air to thank the West Gonja District Assembly for breaking the ground for the project to begin. Reporting for Joy News, Rafiq Salam, Larabanga.
The Media Foundation for West Africa has released the second report of its campaign language monitoring project. The report was released on 123 programs on 40 radio stations for the period May 1 to 15, 2016, names individuals and radio presenters who use abusive language, radio stations on which such indecent expressions were recorded, and political parties whose officials, affiliates and supporters use abusive language on radio. A total of 69 indecent expressions were recorded on 16 out of 40 radio stations monitored. The report cites unsubstantiated allegations as the most indecent expressions used by individuals, political activists and radio station hosts, presenters in political communications on radio. Accra-based Muntie FM recorded the highest number of 16 indecent expressions, mainly on its Pampasu program. Happy FM, also based in Accra, followed with 13 indecent expressions, which were mostly recorded on its Democracy program. Oman FM in Accra and Kumasi-based Ash FM followed with 10 indecent expressions each. Officials, affiliates and supporters of the main opposition New Patriotic Party topped the list of culprits with a total of 26 incidents. This was followed by the ruling National Democratic Congress and the New Labour Party with 4 indecent expressions each. The others are the Progressive People's Party, the National Democratic Party, the Ghana Freedom Party with 1. The monitoring report is the second of several to be issued by the MFWA before, during and after the 2016 elections. We're taking a break. When we come back, we'll bring you entertainment. Right, so yesterday, Ms. G promised us it was bringing us some exclusive, and I'm so very much looking forward to that. I believe it had to do with Empire.
Exactly, you know, when I promise, I never fail, you know. So, yes, we're going to be hearing from Taraji P. Henson and also Terrence Howard here on the show, all the way from wherever they found themselves. But that is Lucius and Cookie Lion. If you're a fan of the Empire series, you're so familiar with these two names. But before we go to that story, let's talk about something here in Ghana. And we're talking about Inspector Bediako. You remember that series?
Yes.
You remember? You know the name
Oscar
of the
Provençal.
man? Okay. So a lot of people do not know he's called Oscar Provençal.
It's true, though.
People know him as
Inspector
Inspector Bediako. He tells me that he's going to Wa and far away in Nigeria, and people can still relate with him as Inspector Bediako. He said at a point in time, he was the 3rd well-known man in Nigeria. Nigerians knew Nkrumah.
Oh, really?
Yes. They knew Jerry John Rawlings, ex-president Jerry John Rawlings, and the next person they knew was Inspector Bediako. And it was such a humbling experience for him.
There are people out there who've acted for so long, and they've probably done 101,000 films, and yet they're not etched into the memories of Ghanaians. It's been a very uncanny experience to be traveling to maybe Wa or onto the border of Burkina Faso, and you're in a village and you're under, you know, a kerosene lantern, and somebody looks at you and says, are you not Inspector Bediako? And you go, whoa. And this is, you know, 20, 30 years down the line.
Was it the toughest you had to play?
You got to enjoy what you're doing, but you got to take it seriously, and some of us did. I mean, I was young. If anybody said, did I look at that time like a police inspector, I knew I was too young to, you know.
How old were you by then?
Oh, good grief, woman. You're asking serious questions here. But I'm sure I was probably in my mid-20s or early 20s. And, you know, to play that role convincingly enough for people to believe, that's why I was as stern as I was. I had to make up for my youth. And it got to a point in time where I realized that I needed to put on weight to beef it up a little bit and look a bit older. I think that was probably the mistake of my life.
Did it pay?
Let me put it in the perspective that you're pioneers. And no, it didn't pay in the true sense of the word. I've heard a lot of things about the old actors and the old musicians, and they've been left behind and this and that. Well, you know, not to be controversial, they've had their time. I've had my time. I'm not going to be crying about why nobody's calling me for a film, even though that's my decision. But assuming I was in the industry, I'd have to reinvent myself.
You hear some Nigerians refer to the fact that we used to watch a lot of Ghanaian productions, and then the tables turn. You were there, you saw what happened.
Yes, Inspector Bediako was shown in Nigeria. Indeed, there was, excuse me, there was a time that some people said that I was the 3rd best known person to Nigerians because they knew Nkrumah, they knew Jerry Rawlings, and they knew Inspector Bediako.
Wow.
That was huge. That was humbling.
Yeah. I mean, he was huge. I mean, if in Nigeria, people were watching. You were in Nigeria at the time.
Exactly, and it's the reason I could relate because my parents kept referring to the fact that he was Ghanaian, and every time we watch Inspector Bediako, it was almost like everybody should be seated. This is our own, you know, come and see us. And you know, even in Igoli, the place of gold, which was shot in South Africa, he was in there. And it was almost like this was our hero at that time. The man has played a lot of characters. And I'll be bringing you some more as the days go by on Inspector Bediako because he has been indicted in the whole Actors Guild drama. Some time past, he was a welfare officer. And so now that he decided to go to the polls, he's one of the people who actually are opposing them going to the polls. And so he'll be telling us more about the Actors Guild and the drama in the Actors Guild. Let's do Shatawale and Chris Waddle. I'm sure that you remember that few days ago.
Is there still some more drama?
Oh, no. This time around, maybe the drama is that Chris Waddle goes to perform and decides to do a Shatawale song. Okay, so now the question is, was Chris trying to thrive on Shatawale's popularity? Because if you say you are not going to make peace with this man, why do his song anywhere?
Well, the fans just love the music, so he gives them the
song. So once you're going to sing my song because the fans love it, it means that I'm much more popular than you are.
Has Shatawale said anything about it?
Oh, we are waiting. You know, Shatta, he will definitely come respond. Or baby Eja, you know, he will be Eja anyway. But let's talk about Nigeria actor who a lot of people call Okocha Tupac. Now, people do not know whether he's on drug or he's been depressed. You know, he shows up on Instagram crying and saying that he will shine, he will make it. He's an actor. Okay, he's an actor.
He's not very popular.
He's a popular one. A lot of people call him Tupac. They tend to think that he has some resemblance with Tupac.
So why is he still? Was he hoping that he will shine?
Exactly, because he's one that is popular. Maybe I don't know. Maybe he's not getting his due. But people think that he should be on something because, you know, he's not really making sense. Like, I don't understand what he's saying.
It's weird.
Exactly.
You know,
like and then I'm going to shine, and then you're shine. But other people think that, okay, maybe he was playing a role.
When did he put out this?
Today. It was on Instagram today. And so we're still wondering what's wrong with him. And people say, maybe because you don't get to see him in movies these days. So talk about me. Let's do something. So we're still waiting to find out what exactly was the case.
Well, he's shiny now.
Yeah.
At least we're hearing talking about him. I'm sure all over the continent they're going to be talking about him.
I'm going to shine, you know. I'm going to shine. Anyway, so to the biggest story, Taraji P. Henson, great character. I'm still looking at who I can compare to Taraji because she's a drama queen. I thought that
she recently won an award. Actually.
Yes, Forbes has named her as one of the most influential females because of her role as Cookie Lion in the Empire series.
But that role, Cookie Lion, I believe won her an award. Apart from this Forbes thing, it actually won her an award.
It did win her an award. Okay.
It won her an Emmy, actually.
Okay, I see. All right. But this time around, she's talking to Dela Glanu of myjoyonline.com and together with Terence, and they're speaking about, first of all, they spoke about how they landed their role, whether they auditioned for it, how they had the chemistry like you and I do have. Yes. And then also they speak about the fact that Jamel was leaving the Empire series. And then finally, 50 Cent had accused the series of propagating and promoting gayism. They address all of that.
Okay, so I mean, it's great that Dela got that interview. For me, the most popular track that came, the song or the track I love about that show is Conqueror.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's the song that you love.
And I've actually been playing that all day.
Good for you. You're a conqueror then. Okay, so that's about it. Taraji and Terence, your perfect couple, Lucius and Cookie Lion. On that note, that's it for entertainment today, Israel.
Yep.
I'll be back with some more tomorrow.
Thank you very much.
Expect me, but I'm gonna shine.
Yeah.
I'm gonna shine. You know.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. B. Thanks, Ms. B. And
Entertainment News was brought to you by
All right, so we're just getting some news coming through in the just about the last 20 minutes about some apology from Sule Muntari. Gary Al-Smith is here. I've seen it on your page, actually, on your Twitter page. So official, Muntari apologizes to Ghana FA official and for Brazil 2014 misbehavior. And Muntari says, I've reflected on what happened and I'm deeply sorry and apologize to all the stakeholders offended by my actions. And again, he says, Ghana has a special place in my heart and I'll forever be indebted to my country and all the fans who have supported me. And I am always available to play for the senior team of Ghana whenever I am invited. And I think that is where the story is.
You know when, like, you're writing an application letter, thank you for giving me the job, I'll do my best. I'll charge $1 million.
All right, so I would want to believe that it's because the qualifiers are coming up and he wants to be...
I want to believe that 2 years after the incident, 365 times 2, Muntari has now, he said he has reflected deeply. It took him 2 years. So we believe,
that's deep reflection enough.
That's deep.
Yeah.
That's bottomless reflection.
Anyway, so when did this come in?
This came in just about 30 minutes ago on the Ghana website, FA site. And you know what they wrote on the official GFA site? They said, we have received a letter of apology, not Sule Muntari has apologized. It's like we did our place and then the letter came. So we have heard, you know.
Okay, but essentially my understanding is that, I mean, the guy won't sell it. You know,
because we have just qualified for the African Cup of Nations.
We say selection. You want selection. Yeah. Okay, but isn't he too old?
Not old. That's ageism, right? But the fact of the matter is that is he needed at this point? I think that is the more...
Okay, what would he bring to the table?
Thank you. What would he bring to the table that others don't? Unfortunately, you know, Mubarak Wakaso is his prodigy in every possible way. Yeah. It's like a small brother. He groomed him. Wakaso always talks about him. But Wakaso has literally replaced Sule Muntari in terms of style, in terms of what he can offer. And there are a couple of others. What will Muntari do specially that others won't bring? Maybe it's about experience. But, I mean, it's been 2 whole years. Ghana has been to the AFCON in 2015, gone to the final without you. They've qualified almost flawlessly in the World Cup qualifiers without you.
Yeah, but at a time when we don't have Asamoah around, yeah, maybe we need some...
Asamoah has never been the leader of the team. So
yeah, but maybe we need some experience. So
that's what I'm saying. What experience does Asamoah bring to bear? I mean, in terms of his goal scoring,
let's take him like a Roger Miller.
Yeah. That's left to the selection. But the fact of the matter is that it's been 2 years that we've had to live without him.
Yeah.
Why would you deny people who have earned their spots a place in the team?
Yeah. He has to fight for his place.
Yeah, he has to fight for his place. But he can't fight for his place playing in the golf. That's where he is now.
Wow.
That's another cogent. If you were playing for Chelsea or Man United or Real Madrid, I mean, there's nothing we could have done about it. But he's playing somewhere, you know. Anyway.
Okay, you take it away.
Right, so that's the breaking news we got, and you can head over to My Joy Online. You can see the full statement there of Sule Muntari apologizing to you and to the GFA. We are still continuing the matters of Muhammad Ali, and in the tributes that keep coming, I don't know where they're going to stop. The man is going to be buried on Friday, so bear with us. The chairman of the African Cup of Nations 2008 local organizing committee that was held in Ghana, Dr. Kofi Amoah, met him, Muhammad Ali, in 1964 when he, Dr. Kofi Amoah, was a student. He also says that he and Muhammad Ali in Los Angeles later in life, and he's paid tribute to the great man.
I want to say is that for me, his lesson to all of us is the deep belief he had in justice and civil rights. And that belief made him take a lot of decisions that were sacrifice for his profession, for his money making, for his life. Being drafted to the U.S. Army to go and fight in Vietnam. The story has been told, so everybody knows he rejected that. They had no problem with the Vietnamese, and that there were bigger problems in the United States to solve, and that he's not going to go. And because of that, his license, he lost his title. He was suspended, and for 3 years, at the height of his sports career, he couldn't fight, and he lost millions of dollars. So it tells a lot of story of the sacrifices that we too, we as human beings, can take from the lessons of somebody like Muhammad Ali in following our beliefs and doing what we can to resurrect changes. If it's about justice, it's about civil rights, it's about economic independence. For us in Ghana and Africa, I think this is where we are in terms of elevating the lives of our people, and that Ali's life is a shining example of what can be accomplished.
From the greatest ever to one of the most promising, Richard Comey is a name that if you've been following boxing, you would know that he is one of the most promising boxers we have coming from Ghana at the moment. Now, he's donated kits to a teenage boxer, Selassie, in what was a press conference today.
So, me along with Carl have supported this young boy over the last 4 or 5 years in his development as a boxer. Importantly, we support him in making sure he goes to school and gets his education, but also comes to the gym and trains hard. He, like Richard, for me is a future world champion, but it's up to us to make sure that they get to that level. Yeah, we cannot forget what's coming behind, so we have to continue to invest in the youth and young boys. So what we've bought today, me, myself and Carl Loco, when we was in London, we got some kits because they need equipment here. No one is investing in boxing. Done this with Richard, and we're going to do it with other boxers we see who have world title potential. We are going to be starting up a foundation, a streetwise foundation, that's going to be investing in Ghanaian boxing. We are going to be organising fundraising in the UK and around the world to get better equipment, to get better clothing, better footwear for the young boxers coming through. And we're going to show the people who should be doing it how it's done. When we do this world title fight, and praise be to God, we do it in the National Stadium, it'll be the biggest event this country has seen for a long, long time. And that'll be down to boxing. Not football, not any other sport, but one individual getting in the ring and raising the flag of Ghana.
In the Barclays Premier League, Jose Mourinho has seen an end to his case with Eva Carneiro. You might recall that the Chelsea doctor made some allegations against the former Chelsea boss. In the middle of that allegation was a claim that there was sex discrimination, but today, at a court in Croydon, Jose Mourinho was there himself, and apparently they settled all the claims, and a 7-figure sum will be given to Eva as compensation.